Hello and welcome to another video from Thefanpub.com.
It's great to be back, Al. And I tell you what, we've had some problems trying to get this podcast off the ground. We do apologise. Last 2 weeks we've lost, although we've recorded two fantastic shows, we think they were great, we've lost them both due to sound and technical issues. God, we sound like the BBC, don't we?
Yeah.
The early
well,
BBC.
Let's make this one doubly good. So
yeah, this may be a slightly longer one. So buckle your seatbelts and let's see what we can do.
All the latest news, though, so it's going to be a fantastic show. So
excellent.
No, let's get
straight into it then.
Let's get straight into it. Probably the biggest news of the off-season so far.
Yep.
Jay Cutler, I'm probably done with football.
Yeah, tragedy. I did actually have his name down as a fantasy team name, Cutler's last stand, but we never got to that part. He didn't even actually get to stand one more time. So
well, he was standing, but yeah.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's effectively, as far as I've been concerned, and probably a lot of people looking at it from a fantasy perspective, he's done nothing for a few years, has he really? So
any year, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean. So thank you very much, Mr. Cutler, and goodbye.
Okay, well, some slightly more relevant fantasy news. Aaron Jones was suspended 2 games. What do you see as the implications for that?
I think this is huge. I've said it all the way through so far, our podcasts. I do honestly believe genuinely that the best blocking back, if you want, for one of the better word, is Jamal Williams by a mile, and his metrics put him in the top 5 of all running backs over 100 carries. That is huge, particularly as Aaron Rodgers got injured. So you're looking, as a head coach, you're always looking at the backs that can actually, block for you, block for your quarterback for obvious reasons, stop that pass rush coming in. And Aaron Jones really factors in the bottom 5, actually, of any player that had 100 carries.
So,
now, I'm not
a
denying,
lot of the big fantasy backs do, though.
Yeah, I'm not denying the guy has, great upside and everything like that. But this is Aaron Rodgers. Your crown asset is Aaron Rodgers. You cannot afford for him to get knocked over. Your team goes as he goes. And I think this 2-game suspension will massively put Aaron Jones on the back foot. There could be some real fantasy gold a few weeks into the season with him, but early doors now, surely this is Jamal Williams' backfield.
Well, I think you said in the one we lost that there was a story saying Aaron Jones had really bulked up in the off-season.
Oh, it's a brilliant story, yeah. I mean, it is. Al brings a great point. It's really quite funny. The 2 days before, they said he bulked up and he was looking really good, and then 2 days later he's been suspended because of PED violation. Well, I think that's the reason why we bulked up, isn't it, Aaron? Let's be honest. So, not looking too clever, to be honest with you. And people forget as well, because they'll now be monitoring him because he's done for this violation. The odds are that he will lose weight, and that's going to have another impact on him as this happens to his body, because that's what he's done. He's tried to manipulate nature. It never works.
Plus, he's going to lose reps in training camp and everything because they've got to prepare with 2 different backs.
Got to be Jamal Williams. I'm absolutely convinced of it. So I think early season, I think Jamal Williams is the guy. Maybe for the first, I think he'll hold on to the job for at least 5 or 6 Williams bar injury, and then if he's done well, because this may be just the right avenue for him.
They are a tricky couple of opening games, though, so it could go the other way.
It certainly could. And this is a very tricky backfield, because this is not clear cut, so you don't want to pay any high price for any of the backs in this backfield. Although the offense is high octane, and we always say that that's always a route to quick fantasy gold. It's just so unclear which one is the real lead back. It's really out of Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams for me.
Ty Montgomery obviously
has a chance.
I mean, there are Ty Montgomery truthers that will tell you that he's going to
do well,
catch passes, and
I'm sure he will have a role within this offense. It's just I don't actually want to pay any high price for any of them. I don't mind having them as a piece in my team on the bench, and let's see what happens, and maybe I can rotate them in.
The truth is it's a gamble, and you don't know which one it's going to be.
No, and if
you're a gambler, then go for one and hope you get it right.
Yeah, I would be backing Jamal Williams. I mean, it's fairly obvious now, but that his value actually now probably drops ADP wise, which is a shame. And Aaron Jones rises away, so
I'm avoiding the whole backfield, to be honest.
I'm only going to advocate if the price is right, buy one, but if the price is wrong, don't bother. And at the moment, the price is okay.
If Williams falls to a certain amount, or even Ty Montgomery, I might have a go, but otherwise I'm avoiding.
It's a tricky one. Al's right.
Julian Edelman lost his appeal against a 4-game ban for an alien substance, whatever that is.
Yeah,
it's a bit X-Filesy. And
it is. No surprise, though. It's obviously, if it's an unknown substance that he's using, that almost sort of I'm not being horrible to him, but clearly then if they can't identify it, then it's something new that somebody's trying to manipulate the system with, and this is a problem in American football. There's no doubt about that.
In a lot of sports, really. With
the highest level. I mean, it goes on. We've seen it in more clearly in bicycles. Tour de France, things like that. You see it a lot of the time. To get to pump out the oxygen they require.
But when did they test him? Because he was walking around on crutches. He had an ACL.
I mean, what was he?
Say? All right, Mr. Edelman, I know you're enjoying the game. Can you just come with us? And when did they capture him then?
I don't know, Al. I mean, it's.
Did they take his crutches away? Sorry, there you go.
What part did that performance enhance him? That's the question. I don't know. You're right. I mean, it is a strange one, and it might be due to the medication he's on, due to the injuries that he sustained. Who knows? But that's a mess. And that opens the door, doesn't it, fantasy-wise, for someone else? And there's a real debate over who that opens the door for. What's your instincts tell you on this, for who gets a little bit of an uptick? Or maybe there's a couple of players getting an uptick.
I think Jordan Matthews and Rex Burkhead are the obvious candidates to get extra work.
Is there any chance for Hogan or Mitchell, do you think?
Well, Hogan's got his role already.
Yeah.
Not sure about Mitchell, because he's coming up a year... mind you, Matthews was off a lot of the year as well.
Yeah, he showed flashes, didn't
he?
He
yeah,
showed
definitely.
A little something special, but you never quite ever... There's no run of it.
But Edelman's going to come back and have that role. You've got Gronk as well. I know Burkhead's going to get a lot of work. You've got Sony Michel.
I'm guessing Edelman's a great player. If you're stacking up on a lot of running backs early, then Edelman falls in the draft as a nice run. If you can get
Edelman in PPR really late,
fabulous.
Then great value, isn't it?
Fabulous.
I mean, you're going to have to put with him on your bench for 4 games.
Dynasty is probably very little value, but for what if you're building a win now team, then it certainly has some value. Good point.
Okay. Now the Colts came out and said Robert Turbin is going to be an every down back. He can be the feature back. He did it in college. And then it comes out that he's banned for 4 games.
Yeah, I think he's...
his good form in camp could have been down to illegal substances.
Well, I mean, look at the Messi. I mean, the guy has had opportunities in the NFL. He's shown moments, but it is real moments. I mean, I've never trusted him. And I understand that there are people out there who do. And we've got someone who's really good at this, who really goes after the wide receivers early and then looks for those late round running backs. And
Turbin
is one of those guys.
Well, a couple of years ago.
And he probably will be one of those guys again, because that Indianapolis backfield, even if he is suspended
another
4
murky
games,
one,
is another murky one. Anybody could come out of that.
So we've got, Marlon Mack. He's probably the favourite.
He should be the favourite to win it.
But he's coming off injury.
Yeah. I like Naeem Hines myself.
Hines, yeah.
I really do. I think, all right, more in PPR, but I'm still going to say, I'm going to give, my steer is this year a bit more than any other year. I'm beginning to see teams using these third down backs more and more. And I would ask the question, it's a little bit like some of the other teams that we've seen, is there is going to be more chances for them to use these third down backs. And you're talking about Andrew Luck coming back off injury. He's going to need a running back that's going to slip out of the backfield and give him that outlet valve. This sounds like a good situation.
Yeah, Hines is more of you get him out in open field.
And he's brilliant for that. Very small, nippy. You don't want him in close and... it's not going to be a goal line back or anything.
No.
The odd carry here or there. But I think his value in PPR can be very underrated.
You got Jordan Wilkins, another rookie.
Very interesting, that one. Yeah, he could be a real punch shot to glory there. So, yeah, definitely interesting.
But, who knows at this stage.
Another murky one. I love these murky backfields, and they're what fantasy is built on.
Yeah, and I think it's probably going to be a big few weeks for them in camp, so we'll see how it progresses. We'll keep an eye on the news.
Definitely.
And we'll let you know when we see anything worth knowing.
I still feel in this case, on that one backfield, I'm erring, I'm starting to push more and more towards Naeem Hines, and that kind of
But I wouldn't touch him in standard.
No, it's more difficult. I think round his ADP,
you've got in PPR.
Yeah, it's a different beast, but you have to judge it, as Al always says, based on the scoring format. But I think in a PPR league, even a half point, there may be some value there.
Okay, let's move on to LeSean McCoy and what's going on there.
Well, I think he's in trouble. I mean,
I think everyone knows.
The fact of the matter is, this is a very serious accusation. I mean, the NFL has to be seen to do the same thing they've done with Ezekiel Elliott, and let's remember that he got a 6-game suspension. And was he guilty of anything?
Well, the police didn't charge him, but
but they had to give him the suspension because obviously they couldn't. I know it's awful to say this. They kind of had to presume he's guilty before he's proved innocent because of the severity of the case.
Well, they had their own
situation.
Court, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they have to do that in this case. So I think we're looking at the best scenario for LeSean McCoy is he's proven innocent. I hope that's the case, and it isn't what it appears to be because it looks murky at the moment. This looks very dangerous.
It does look bad
and if
for
it
him.
is bad for him, and it does pan out to be, I'm afraid, the other way round, then he's gone. That's the end of his career. It's finished.
I mean, there's lots of
And
big
we've had
circumstantial evidence against him.
And we've had people in Dynasty who have unfortunately picked him up before the news came anywhere near this, and that's really harsh. It's a really tough blow because that's probably a second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, you could be looking at another Ray Rice situation where it's...
Yeah, it's worrying. And I feel for those people, it happens to us all, unfortunately, and there's nothing you can do. And it kills off the value of any stock because that's what you got, pieces that are worth something. He may be worth nothing now.
But one man's demise means there's opportunity around. And that could be, and they're saying at the moment, if LeSean McCoy is unavailable, it's going to be Chris Ivory's job. Are you a fan of Chris Ivory?
I've never really been a fan till now, but fantasy things all change once the chips are cast, as they say. You know, this could be his moment to shine, and you probably do.
He's had his moments before.
He's had his moments, and he hasn't done bad with them. I mean, he's proved a good, solid backup. So, and again, for those people that like to drive wide receivers hard early, he's a really good name in drafts to pick up because he's not going high. His ADP isn't that bad.
He will climb if McCoy gets banned, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. But at the moment, it's fantastic. And I do agree with it. You know, that seems to be a decent route to go down.
I mean, what happens here, you can't state enough. It's massive. Buffalo run the ball more than anybody. Cold weather.
Yeah, and it fits.
They run it
because the weather, it not just being cold, but very high wind. And for a quarterback, that's really the toughest conditions. I mean, you know, anybody that's thrown a ball will know that velocity is everything when you've got weather against you, particularly wind. I mean, my velocity was never great, so I used to play, I think, quite a canny game. So I knew, like, I would always relay with my coach that if the wind was with me, that meant I had an extra 5 or 10 yards on any throw. If the wind is against me, I'm losing at least that. So I'm having to play, you know, if the wind's cutting across me...
Are you like the UK equivalent of Alex Smith or Sam Bradford?
I wasn't as good as Alex Smith.
More like Sam Bradford.
It's Sam Bradford with the accuracy issues, I think. No, I wasn't too bad. But I think, you know, in truthfulness, you have to use what's available to you. And that is so difficult. That's a swirling wind in a stadium. There's so many things to this. But it definitely plays into velocity and arm strength, and it's going to be interesting. That's why I always thought AJ McCarron would have a good chance because he has got good arm strength.
Well, so does Josh Allen as well.
Definitely. Or you know how much a fan I am of his. So it'll be very interesting to monitor. I just hope that, you know, McCarron gets his shot, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I think he will because by all accounts they're not rushing Josh Allen, and they shouldn't.
That's pleasing, and I want to see him develop.
But Chris Ivory could be a steal.
Oh, very much.
If you trust it. They aren't going to bring anyone else in. That's
there's DeMarco Murray's hovering out there, and there's threat that he will retire and all that sort of stuff.
He said he's retiring.
Yeah, but one injury, you've only just big deal comes in, you take it, and I'm sure he is one big offer away from coming straight back in. He hasn't retired officially yet. I think he might come straight back. So I think there's still a chance DeMarco Murray comes into the league. It's getting slimmer. The window is closing, but you don't know.
Yeah, and you wonder how far behind the 8 ball he's going to be coming in at this stage.
Well, he's a veteran running back, so you'd have to hope he can pick up most systems. I mean, most
but will he be fit?
Well, that's a question. That's a really good question.
Surely...
I mean, we didn't see him at his best last season, but then again, we didn't see Derrick Henry at his best. And the Titans, actually, as an offense, it wasn't one man's fault. It looked like everybody's.
I like the way you link that because the next bit is about Jim Wyatt, the beat reporter for the Titans, saying that the Titans actually plan to make Derrick Henry their 3 down back or their big workhorse back.
Yeah, I think...
And that's with the news that Dion Lewis is coming on a 4-year contract. And a lot of people have been talking Lewis up as the main man.
Well, I think this is a very risky situation because that kind of conversation, as much as I'm willing to listen to what anybody says, this is a beat writer report. One of the problems is we've seen beat writer reports the previous year.
I think he's one of the better ones.
He is, but Derrick Henry didn't live up to it last year. Now, I'm not saying that Derrick Henry can't, but his ADP is so high, and you've got to pay a high price. This will pump that ADP up even a little bit more, I think, 5 or 6 spots by the time people start drafting in August. So I think the issue there is we're looking at a fringe first-round player in Derrick Henry, in large leagues, 16-man leagues, and an early second in any league. And that's big ADP, isn't it? What is he currently sitting at, Al?
Well, let's have a look, because I don't think
see you going to the stats, so let's have a little look.
I don't think he's quite that high. He is high.
He will be high. And this news can only push it up, that's, 5 or 6 spots, I think, a bit more before we hit August. And who knows, other podcasters might then, come in and claim him to be the winner of win your league in this player. What do we know?
Right. Well, he's now going below people like Alex Collins, Kenyan Drake.
Okay, so what's his ADP number?
I'm just trying to refresh it at the moment.
It's all right.
Right, let me have a look. some reason.
Because he was hovering around the 34, 35 mark. Is that still the case, or has he moved up a bit? Because I think he'll end up being a reasonable jump up, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think he's in about the mid-30s.
Okay.
I'd say 35 to 40 range.
That's fine. I mean, my opinion is what will happen is now that people are claiming him to be the every down back and Dion Lewis isn't as important, I don't think many fantasy enthusiasts will absolutely take that verbatim. But I definitely think his ADP climbs. So I wouldn't be surprised if it climbs inside 32, which makes sense.
A lot of fantasy people are telling... Derrick Henry's 43 at the moment.
Right.
So he has fallen.
Is that in a standard league?
That is... that'll be...
standard or half point, do you think? I'm not trying to be difficult to Al here, but it's just important to clarify for those that are listening in.
That's standard, that is.
Right, so that's okay.
So it'll be less popular in PPR, won't it?
So 43 is very fair. I've got no argument with that. However, by the time a lot of people are drafting in August, and this is most leagues around the world drafting that month before the NFL goes live, I wouldn't be surprised if his ADP jumps, a round or two. I mean, that's logical.
He has actually fallen 7 places, so he was 36.
This was...
And Lewis has gone up.
Yeah, it'll probably climb again. If you can get him in the third round in any size, I think those are the kind of rounds where you take punts to glory, aren't they? Those are the kind of players you want to have a big uptick. So, yeah, he could easily have a reasonably good year. I certainly like his physicality. I love his size. I like the opportunity.
Still young enough, isn't it?
I like his opportunity. There's a lot to like, and I certainly wouldn't mind having a go.
And in theory, if this news is right, he gets the DeMarco Murray share rather than the Derrick Henry share last year. So
yeah, it's massive.
That is an uptick.
If he could get 200 plus carries with his bulk and size and goal line work, he's worth a shot.
Lewis is a talented back. I mean, he's going at 57, so he's up 7 places from 64.
The only thing that worries me about this, right? So this is where I like to be a little bit cautious. That's why I'm really a little bit hesitant on Derrick Henry. More so, actually, is I've seen Dion Lewis, and I've seen how he takes over games, and I've seen how he ends up working his way into the lineups. And a Titans not a team that seem to have they don't seem to have an epic defense and an epic offense.
They're average.
They're okay both ways. But the problem then comes that you're in a lot of games where you're behind. That just doesn't fit well with an every down back. It just doesn't. They can't kill off the clock. It's not like what I see with Dalvin Cook for this year, with a great situation, with a great offense, and he's coming back from injury. But I trust him so much to do the job. I don't know. This does worry me a little bit, and I don't want to get into a trap with. There's a good stat actually worth sharing that were put together that if you could get the top 5 picks right in a draft, so this is hard. So that means if you can get 5 picks and all those players you pick end up in the top 30 when the season is over, that only ever happens 14% of the time for all drafters.
Which is amazing, really.
Really, and that's a simple fact. So if you kill off your third round pick, because that's what it could be, and maybe you're lucky his ADP stays the same, he's down in the 40s. Fair enough, it's worth a shot. But every misstep that you make and that player doesn't end up in the top 30 kills your opportunity for playoffs. I think you can only make 2 missteps in those top 5, if I'm being honest. And after that, you're in real.
But sometimes it's not even a misstep. You're just unlucky with injury, aren't you?
Injury's a different thing.
Alan Robinson, David Johnson,
he'll have
done nothing wrong, really.
He'll have his lovers out there. He'll definitely have his fantasy darlings. I'm more hesitant with Henry just because I've been in the trap before.
Again, I look at it. I don't mind Henry in standard. I think he loses something in PPR. He should be lower, maybe in the 50.
Well, I don't mind that ADP.
Lewis, I kind of prefer in PPR, but he's okay in both.
If Henry was my third back, I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay. Well, I don't think he'd be a bad second back either, but depends what route you're going down with drafting, doesn't it? Okay. The TJ Yeldon is a clear-cut number 2 behind Fournette, who I'm wearing today.
Yeah, that's good.
Is that big news? That's nothing.
It's nothing.
You got Corey Clement there, but
it's nothing. It's nothing major. I think the reality of the situation is what my scepticism of Fournette is the ankle injury is my biggest issue.
So Yeldon could be a good sort of...
So Yeldon's a great flyer, one of these late picks.
He's quite good when he plays, isn't he?
Yeah, I like him, and he's the kind of pick I don't mind picking up, because sometimes when you're in the higher ADPs, you're looking for players with massive upside, and Yeldon won't have that obvious upside because you'll be thinking, well, it's Fournette's backfield, which it is. But Fournette has had ankle issues in college. He had ankle issues in his first year or so in the NFL, and I do think there's a little red flag around him for a more serious ankle issue. And I'm not saying it happens, but every game, there's a statistical chance for every player.
But if you're looking to pick up somebody late on,
I'm happy to take a shot on a player
214 is
happy to take a shot on a player like this because if he takes over the job, they've got let's be honest, they've probably got the best defense in the league again this year.
Yeah, so a great running team.
Great running team, have to kill the game off. It's a wonderful opportunity. So backs like that really interesting.
And no Chris Ivory.
No
Chris Ivory anymore.
Yeah, I will absolutely anoint him as a good player to have late in the draft. Absolutely.
So he gets your tick of approval.
Yeah, definitely gets a tick of approval.
Okay. Well, Ricky Jones was arrested. Ricky Seals Jones, the tight end.
Yeah.
Possible chance of a breakout year. He's going pretty low. But, the opportunity's there. But he's been arrested for assault.
The evidence seems to be pointing towards a small ban, I think, at best.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Did you hear
I have read about this, and I'm going to be honest. I think this is the way it's going to play out. I'm going to just say this now and get it out of the way. I think, yes, he gets banned. I think the truth is it'll end up being one game, and that's all.
I don't think he can get... I mean, listen to the charges. He was trying to use their facilities when they were for guests only. That's hardly the biggest crime in the world.
Not a big crime.
But they've done him for trespassing. I mean, come on.
I mean,
he shoved the guy with one hand on the shoulder.
But they play to it, don't they?
And that's assault.
Yeah, but as soon as you're this is the problem.
I mean, come on, America.
Yeah, I know.
Come on.
As soon as you're a celebrity or people realise what they're dealing with, and they go down. It's like they wouldn't be surprised if the guy fell backwards as well, and he played, what the international footballers do, which is roll around a lot, Neymar style, to get as much as he can of it. Yeah, it is ridiculous. It shouldn't happen, but this is America.
I know, but Aqib Talib shot himself. He didn't get a ban. Shot himself allegedly in a nightclub. Bloke's trying to go for a pee.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Throw the book at him for
throw the book at him. How dare you trespass to use our facilities? What did they want him to do? Pee on the wall and then get done for some sort of public abuse of the facilities? Who knows? No, it's stupid, but at worst, it's a one-game ban.
It's just a nonsense.
It is likely. I was going to say it is likely to end up with nothing, but there is a chance for a one-game ban. I mean, that's it.
Well, there's some big news. People have been, trying to guess he's going to be filling in for Mark Ingram when he's out. He's banned for the first 4 games.
Yep. We're talking a lot about bans at the moment.
And the Saints have signed Shane Vereen.
Yeah.
He's a veteran catching back. Let's say that. They've released Daniel Lasco.
It's a bit of a weird move, this. I mean, you've got Kamara, who is, quite frankly, electric, super young, really great in space. You bring in Vereen, who isn't any of those things. I don't get that move.
What? Vereen?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Green's a good pass catching back.
Yeah, he's all right, but he's not Kamara, is he? You're not going to bring him in.
He might be playing with Breeze instead of Manning.
How's he going to rotate into the lineup? I can't see it.
I agree with you. He's not Kamara, but
he's not going to rotate into the lineup. I don't see it.
But they've always had these sort of players: Daniel Lasco, Travaris Cadet.
Maybe they brought him in for the camp, and maybe they've made that clear to Shane Vereen that you're going to, work alongside Kamara and just give him the, wise head and just steer him into the season. Maybe that's what it's all about.
He's cover, isn't he, really? Yeah,
and it's second year, it's in his second year, Kamara, and he did brilliantly, but they're going to be question marks. And most players are pretty savvy. They know it's harder to repeat the second year. So all the question marks will be on Kamara, but if he does it in the second year or even anywhere close, he will be regarded as a great back going into the third year. So it's going to be interesting. Maybe this is just that, as you say, cover and a little bit of a wise head.
They've always had this sort of Daniel Lasco, Travaris Cadet cover, haven't they?
Yeah.
Who comes on and he catches one or two passes a game.
Maybe. It is solid cover if anything should go wrong.
Okay, Brandon Cooks, obviously, he was traded to the Rams, your team.
Yep.
From the Patriots, just signed a 5-year, $80 million deal.
He's done very well. I mean, it's a fantastic deal. The Rams obviously seen enough in him to believe in him. I like our coach. If our coach believes in a player, I'm happy to give him the nod of approval. I think he'll have a good year. I think he's very steady, Cooks. I mean, the stats prove that. I mean, you know what you're going to get with him. I don't think there's a super high ceiling with Cooks. I don't think there's a super low floor. I think it's exactly what you'd expect. Is he going to get 1,000 yards? Very likely. Is he going to get 8 touchdowns? That's probably possible. And that's it.
Well, that 5 years tells you they're committed to him
very
long term.
And he's good at stretching the field, and that's what you need. I mean, particularly with a player like Goff, I think that's going to work very well for us. So I'm relatively happy with this.
The one thing I would say is, the worrying thing was, I think we talked about this before, but they talked about Goff's progression when he's trying to look at targets to throw to.
Yeah.
And he always looked left.
B-lines, yeah.
Which means Watkins never got a look in, because Watkins was like his fifth target. And if Cooks has that role, then that's a worry, isn't it?
Well, it is a worry. I think we might have lost this on one of the podcasts that went wrong because we talked a little bit about this, and I totally agree with you. I think my concern with Goff has always been, and I think, again, this has been spelled out, is that I think he's a very good game manager. I hate using that word for quarterbacks because it sounds so derogatory because they are more than that. But the coach knows his limitations and they kind of have to work with it. And you are absolutely right. Any coordinator worth his salt knows this. And so what that means to me is that I will peel off that corner or safety and attack him from that side until he learns to actually adapt to it and actually throw to that side, because I will take those risks. Every now and again, I will say, all in blitz from that side, all in. Because if you're not going to watch for it or even look to the player, that's very dangerous. So if they don't, I'm sure they'll know it's a problem, but players have tendencies, and he's clearly got one, and that's a worry.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was targeting...
And you are right, it could affect...
He was targeting Todd Gurley, and then he was targeting Cooper Kupp in the slot, and then Robert Woods, and then it was one of the tight ends, and then fifth progression was...
Too late by then, isn't it? I mean, you haven't got time for 5 progressions. I mean, most of the game, the throw has to be out in 3.5 seconds, even at the... I mean, funny enough, I was timing this not long ago and just looking at a lower level American football in this country. And the truth was, at this level, it's actually worse. You've actually got to get the ball out even quicker because the lines aren't as good. So actually, you've got to even be quicker. So, looking at that logically, we often in the NFL, they say you've got to get the ball out in 3.5 seconds. In British League, you might have to get the ball out in 2.5 to 3. I mean, that's a fact.
To be fair, I've played a little bit against you.
Yeah.
And the times I did get through the line, you were pretty nifty on your feet.
You have to be.
Either that or I was not so nifty on my feet.
You have to be very, very quick. I mean, the key is, I'm not one of the fastest. I've never been a fast runner, but what I am good at is sliding away from... That's the one thing I do well.
I think you are. You are deceptively fast. Or maybe I'm deceptively slow.
I don't know. Maybe it's both of us help each other. I don't know.
It could well be both.
But it is interesting to watch what will happen, and I think coordinators they'll all be working on different aspects of his game. So... You are right to pick this up on Cooks. I think there is fancy.
That's my worry.
My thing with Cooks is I don't see a spectacularly high ceiling. I don't see a spectacularly low floor. I think it's pretty much where he is. Could he start slower than his, what I think his perceived value is? Absolutely.
He's been tremendously consistent though through his career with different teams.
Yeah, I don't doubt the guy can work all sides of the field and come back for the ball. I think he's so reliable. I mean, you've got to use him. So I don't think it's
You're
a
not
problem.
worried?
I'm not too worried about it, but it's not exciting. Do you know what I mean? I mean, from a fantasy perspective, he'll do a solid job. If he's your third receiver, if you're going down that route of all in on the wide receivers early because you think that's a good tactic, then Cooks could well be your third or fourth wide receiver, and that's not bad.
Okay, talking of not that exciting, news broke from a beat report that Cody Latimer is the new wide receiver 3 at the Giants. That worth anything in fantasy?
He's had every opportunity to shine previously with the Broncos. No, I'm not completely buying into that, and I don't think there's going to really be a role for a third wide receiver in New York. Not with Saquon Barkley coming into the mix. It's really down to OBJ and Shepard's job.
And you've got Ingram as well.
And you've got Ingram. I don't see a role there. And if this guy gets 30, 40 catches, that's what the ceiling. I mean, and where can you bank on that in fantasy? That's terrible.
I read a stat, and it's probably not that surprising that Eli Manning scores 10 points when Beckham doesn't play, and he was averaging 18 or 19 when he does.
Yeah.
So that makes such a big difference to Eli Manning.
Well, like anything, isn't it? It's like any player.
Is that just a player that can get open and?
There's a lot of things. I mean, like there's trust. I mean, I say all I can do is go back to the past, really. And I'm sorry if people get bored of hearing it, but when you've got a good player that you trust and you can throw the ball into and they do the spectacular or the unbelievable, it makes you look good, you feel more confident, everything flows from there, and once you've got a player like that, I'm not surprised the points are higher with them. I certainly had players I trusted more than
Beckham is special, isn't he?
And that is a fact. When you've got a player that you throw the ball into, and sometimes the throw's a little off, but the guy does something that's ridiculously amazing, it helps your confidence, and I think Eli needs that. And equally, if you've got a player where you throw the ball in, and it's a good throw, and they let you down, and you do that one or two times, your confidence can really rock. I mean, as a quarterback, you're like, I'm not sure if I want to throw to that. And good coordinators pick up on that, and they think, he's not going to throw their three good throws, and the guy dropped them. Send the blitz in, corner blitz, send it in. And that's what you do. And I think that's where Eli, why clearly when Beckham's in, the confidence is much higher, and rightly so. I mean, rightly so.
He actually came out and said Sterling Shepard's going to have a prime for a bigger role this year.
I think people are right in this. I think, the more I've thought about it and looked at what kind of team makeup they've got.
Can this Giants team sustain Barkley, Beckham, Shepard, Ingram? Because they're all going pretty high.
No, I think the truth is the people that will benefit. There's three that benefit. It's Eli Manning will benefit from having Saquon Barkley. I think Eli will be still underrated. People the last few years have burnt people on his value. Yes, he's older. His velocity's going. He's definitely.
But look at those weapons.
The weapons he's got mean that Saquon Barkley can roll out. He's a fabulous pass catcher. Great between the tackles. Loads to love about him. You've got OBJ, who obviously he trusts previously with before Barkley gets there. Shepard will have a clear role, and it will be a goodish one. But I think after that, all bets are off. That's it. I mean, I really don't think there's much. Ingram, I think his value will be a lot lower than people think. He's flattering to see because last year everybody got injured in the Giants, so he's pretty much all they had left. Not buying into him. I'm not buying into Shepard, and I think beyond that, that's all I'm looking at. I think Eli, though, could be sneaky good value for this year, but you have to temper this. You don't want to pay no high price, late quarterback, and make sure it's your second, and then you make a decision on how well things start off for the Giants and go from there.
I read today about a multiple trade.
Interesting.
It sounds like it's obviously
beat writer stuff, but it sounds
Odell
good.
Beckham goes to the Browns. Can you imagine?
I don't believe for one minute.
Will he even do that?
No.
I know they're an improving team, but
no, there's no reason to.
And
he has the pick.
Corey Coleman goes to the Cowboys.
Look, Beckham has his pick of any team, and if he ever went on the market, there would be a clamouring for his signature, and there'll be teams who are absolutely desperate.
I don't know, he's a bit of a troublemaker, and he wouldn't be cheap. I know he's a difference maker.
I'd pay any price.
Would you?
I would pay any prices to get him on a team.
I've got him in Dynasty.
Can you imagine if you could pair him up with...
You want to take him off me in Dynasty?
I'd love to. If you could pair him up with DeAndre Hopkins, and you had them both on the same field at the same time with the running game, that would be quite spectacular.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that.
Of course they're not, but you never know.
You can't have two alpha male number one wide receivers.
You can, they can fight it and duke it out. It'd be really cool. It'd be great to watch. Good for fantasy.
It wouldn't it? Hurt them both, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily. There'd be room to throw the ball a lot. You've got Deshaun Watson.
I suppose you can't double team both of them.
You can't. It'd be really exciting for them. But anyway, that's pie in the sky stuff. Not going to happen.
They don't need that. No. They've got Will Fuller. They've got Kiki
right.
Kuti.
That's another player we'll come to. That's interesting.
Yeah, very hot player at the slot, so keep an eye on him.
Did well in the training camp, didn't he?
Yeah,
One of your favourites.
Oh, he's getting... they're talking him up beyond belief.
Well, I have to agree with
the
you.
hype there for...
I know we've kind of gone off tangent to him, but this is fantasy, so it's relevant. I think he's got a good shot, and he's one of our late-round flyer players we really like. We don't mind taking a punt on him.
Yeah, certainly longer term. But he's probably one for longer term, definitely in late-round dynasties. And stuff.
Or he could surprise even in the first year. Well,
the fact he's playing in the first year for a rookie wide receiver
could be exciting. I mean, you don't know, and as the season develops, perhaps, just perhaps you're thinking, wow, what a steal.
It's opportunity, always, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, look at Laquon Treadwell. He's still waiting for an opportunity. Stuck behind two great wide receivers.
So difficult for him. I can't see any way out. So hard.
You can't see any way out?
No.
Okay.
He's not going anywhere this year unless injury.
He's this year's breakout fantasy. You heard it here live. Right. Okay.
Let's hope not. Right.
The bell rigmarole.
Rolls around again.
Yeah, same old story. Apparently,
he's going. It's
it 5 years, 70 million? They're supposed to have offered him.
Look what the way this is playing out, right? So this is obvious where this is heading. They've had to franchise tag him right?
Again.
Bell knows that, so he's getting top dollar for the position, really, right?
Yeah.
Because they've had to franchise tag him. They're not going to let him go, so they franchise tag him. Then he's 1 year older after this season. Now, I'm pretty confident that he is going to end up being too expensive for their taste. They're going to have to let him go. But for this year, he's going to be with the Steelers. Now, the great thing for him is, which is what most veterans hate, and he's a veteran now, even though he's still got a few years on the tyres.
26, 27?
Yeah, he's still got a few years left on the tyres because he's been elite. They don't like training camps, so he can avoid that now. He's got the route out, so it's perfect for him. He can sit out a training camp. He's on the franchise tag. He'll roll in when he needs to late in camp and do what he always does. Come in super fit, do his job.
I don't know. I think he was a bit rusty. If I remember last year, first week or so, he was a bit rusty and people... any signs and people will be on his back, won't they?
I'm not worried about it.
He did pretty well in the season.
I'm not worried about the season. I mean, let's be honest. We forget the 1 week of rust. Some players need 3 or 4 to shake it off.
So what about the future? Because obviously that matters for people playing Dynasty and things like that. And Or if there's a Bell, or even if there's a Bell injury.
Well, I think this is probably good for Bell because, I mean, if you're being honest...
No, I mean, what about his replacement? Would it be James Conner? Will he get the job?
If anything was to happen to Bell...
He got Jalen Samuels as well.
It should be James Conner. There is still Toussaint. He's coming back with an injury. It could be Samuels. I mean, this is a tricky... Normally the handcuff is a bit more clear-cut. This is actually starting to look a bit more...
I think Conner would probably be.
Edges it, but it is a bit more... let's see how the camp unfolds. We'll have a better steer. I've got Conner in a couple of leagues, just as a cover, just in case, because it's a really great opportunity if it happens.
High-octane offence.
But I think for Bell, coming back to Bell, I think this is a great situation because I think, you're going to get paid top dollar. You can make your decision with your agent next year about what you're going to do. They can't keep putting you on the franchise tag. It starts getting a bit daft, and the price ramps through the roof. But I love the situation he's got where he can literally kind of go wherever he wants. There'll be another clamouring for a name, a player like this. There'll be a mass of teams wanting to hire him. The price will be unbelievable because he's so elite, particularly if he has another strong year. And he could avoid the problems that's coming to Pittsburgh, which is when Ben retires. It's a different team. It's a different thing. And that's coming quick. And AB, Antonio Brown, been elite, not going to, can't second guess a guy that's that consistent. He's like Jerry Rice all over again. There's only so much more time before he has to retire. Logically, if Ben ain't there, AB can't be the same. It just... And how much more do you rumble on? So Pittsburgh can come into a crux. That's what I'm saying. A crossroads, really. And fantasy-wise, this is going to be interesting. So Bell may.
They've probably got 1 or 2 years. They've got to start. They've got to win the Super Bowl in that time.
It's kind of now for them. I mean, they've got a chance because it's so good at home. So anything's possible.
Okay. Allen Robinson, all go for camp. So he did his ACL first quarter last year. He's one of my picks. That's
says it all. Yep. Unlucky.
He's still going this high this year, playing for the Bears.
Yeah, it's very
off.
It's very, very high. I'm not a fan of Allen Robinson. Even when he had his breakout year in Jacksonville, I still haven't really been sold, and I think that's because I haven't seen 2 clear years of it. It takes a bit more than what I've seen to really buy me over.
ADP of 41.
It's just so high. I mean, I'd rather take a punt on the guy we just talked about
in
Tennessee than him.
Let's talk about the players that are there. So the people, if you needed a wide receiver, you got Amari Cooper, Alshon Jeffrey, Demaryius Thomas.
I'm taking Demaryius Thomas.
Josh Gordon.
I'm taking Demaryius Thomas, and if I want to go for a risk, because they're all risk, those guys. Not Demaryius, but the other ones. There's a bit of risk involved. I'll take a shot on Josh Gordon if I had to, because at least. Although it's a big risk, I mean, the upside's massive. It's a potential brilliant wide receiver if it played right. I mean, it might also be nothing, but he's showing flashes of getting back.
Yeah, but you need to get some value back at that.
I think you do. I like Demaryius Thomas. I think that's about as safe as it gets.
Good player. Good player. Good
and
QB.
A good year ahead, I think, for him.
Certainly having Keenum as QB didn't
very useful.
Didn't do Diggs or Thielen anymore.
We're talking about redrafting this particular pick here for Demaryius Thomas. I mean, in Dynasty, is different kind of players.
Just traded for him in Dynasty.
Have you? Good for you. Well done.
He's a brilliant player.
He is very good. Yeah, he'll do very well.
But mine is a win now team.
You are, yeah. Mine's slowly building back.
Yours is a win never team. Okay, we'll move on.
They're very easy to actually produce in Dynasty. Actually,
I'll probably come to eat those with.
Oh dear.
Randall Cobb no longer in a walking boot.
That's nice of him. This is a player. There's a lot of division over this. I mean, I understand the upside. Look, we've covered it in the show before. We'll cover it again quickly.
When you lose Jordy Nelson, who was a top 2 round, he went in the top 2 rounds. But
Devontae Adams is the heir apparent and has been for a couple of years and proved he can work with Jordy and without Jordy.
But even Adams was like a round 2, round 3 player, probably round 4.
Well, Adams now is now the man there. Cobb is second, and those 1-2 wide receivers normally always do so well, except that when you look at Cobb's stats, you have to look at Cobb's stats. He hasn't produced for a very long time, and that's a fact.
Only the odd game.
He is still very young. I mean, that's another cruel thing here, but I think some players get older. Forget the age, get older quicker in the NFL because of the kind of punishment that they've actually taken. And he has been injured a lot, Cobb. He's coming off another walking boot. I can't buy into this hype. He's becoming a fantasy darling. I'm sorry, I just will not let myself fall into the trap of taking Cobb when there are other players around who I'm a little bit more safe with or have a little bit more upside and I'm comfortable. I'd rather take a stab at one of the rookie wide receivers later.
Cobb is 97.
You know, it's
I
good.
ran with Julian Edelman.
I mean, that
can't be right.
You know, I don't look. 97 is fine for small leagues, right?
All right, tell me. There's 3 here then.
Look, 97.
I'll
is
give
fine
you a
for
cut
small
straight keep live.
Yeah, please do.
Jordy Nelson,
Yeah, that's not
Sterling
looking
Shepherd.
good. Yeah,
Randall Cobb. Cut trade keep
I trade on Cobb because people are going to buy into it.
because
Yeah,
like you say,
they're going to buy into the hype. I'm going to. The other two were
Sterling Shepherd.
I'll take Sterling Shepherd and keep him
And
on
Jordy
my team.
Nelson.
And Jordy Nelson I would have to drop because I think the best days are gone.
What?
Yeah, sorry.
But it's Jordy Nelson.
I know, but the best days have gone. Sorry, Jordy. You've been brilliant.
Derek
I loved
Carr's
you.
a good QB, isn't he?
He is, but you know, I don't think Jordy does the Crabtree role. I think it's over. It's game set match. I'm afraid.
Poor Jordy.
I know, but you know, in that situation, Shepherd should be pretty solid.
Okay. Some other news, because we're always trying to give you the good news coming out of the camps, so the stuff you really need to know. And the Broncos coach, Vance Joseph, came out and said the Broncos are likely to use a 2 or 3 running back system.
Yep.
This is 2 weeks after saying it was Devontae Booker's job.
Well, all this does out is playing to the hands of what I've been saying. I mean, you know, we were talking about this offline, and we both agree. I mean, you know, if it was supposedly meant to be Devontae Booker's backfield, and then there was going to be a camp battle, that's a different thing. Now they're saying it's actually likely to be 2 or 3 backs. There isn't a third back in our view. You know, Henderson,
D'Angelo Henderson.
So it's really Royce Freeman or Devontae Booker, and I know where my money lies.
Or both.
Or both, but I'm quite happy with that because I don't think you're paying a massive price for Royce Freeman at the moment, and I'm prepared to take those shots because I feel that this guy will, when he comes in, my God, his size is unbelievable. I mean, that breaking tackles part to his game in college level, okay, you have to be a little bit careful. Rate's right up there. His size is unreal. I mean, he's a real powerhouse. They've got a good defense. Their offense will improve this year. Both receivers will get heavy workload. He's a good back to catch the ball as well. He's surprising with the big man. Got good hands.
Good new QB.
Good QB. I just can't
Journeyman
see. I just love Royce Freeman, and don't be surprised if he reaches our top 12 list for this season when we release it. He's one
that'll
to
be coming
watch
up
for.
later, but
You know, we're just waiting for final little pieces, but you were hearing it first. I'm very keen on him, and anybody that knows in Dynasty knows that I've been prepared to go. There are a couple of players I love. He's one. I'm prepared to go after and get them.
if he's there at 8 or 9 in Dynasty, then snap him up.
How about he snap him up?
Even maybe 7, you know.
And could you just, for curiosity, I know you may not have it to hand. If you don't, that's fine now. But
Find out.
I'd love to know his ADP as it stands today.
Freeman?
Yeah, for Royce Freeman, because this is kind of interesting to get a gauge for the smaller and bigger leagues where he's going.
55.
So that tells you that a lot of fans out there. 55 is.
I'm not buying into Devontae Booker.
That's just inside 4 rounds in a large league. You know, that's pretty. That's pretty amazing. And a 55 is round 6.
And Booker's 125.
I mean, that tells you all. Fantasy people know what they like, and
this is an expert consensus.
Surprised, not in the slightest bit surprised. That's how people are trending. I mean, you would think as it's. There are 2 to 3 backs that this should be a very close ADP contest, and it's clearly not.
Everyone hates Booker in the fantasy world.
He's hurt them bad, and I think
which is why he might actually be worth a flyer.
Definitely. Well, look, if you don't own Royce Freeman, you've got nothing to lose by taking the other guy. Really, I mean, because at that ADP, you're taking shots for fantasy glory, and that would be one.
Yeah, and if anything happens to Booker,
I'm happy with that. That's a good shout. So yeah, for me, it's Royce Freeman. For me, it's Royce Freeman. I'm not a fan of Devontae Booker. I'll take my shots elsewhere. But if people did at that ADP, that's fine.
Devontae Booker could be a number 1 running back.
He could.
You're not buying it.
Well, I'm just not convinced. Well, I believe Royce Freeman could be an every down back.
Okay, we've been asked to give our opinions on 4 players.
Yep.
Their fantasy outlook for the season. The first one, obviously everyone knows about him, Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, I think Ezekiel Elliott in standard leagues has an opportunity in standard, not PPR or half-point PPR, has a chance to be the number 1 back this year for a few reasons. I think that out of all the top backs, he has the best schedule. All the schedules are tough for all the 4 top backs here, but his is about 18th hardest to face, whereas others, Gurley's facing, he has the hardest schedule. It is the worst schedule you can have for running backs. It doesn't mean he won't produce. It just that's the schedule. I think Ezekiel Elliott has a chip on his shoulder. I think he's literally very hungry. That's what he does. He loves to be fed the ball. He gets better when they're feeding him. He feeds off the emotion. He's a very passionate player. I love that in players.
We haven't got any receivers.
You've got no receivers. You're going to need to really load him up. There is risk, but he's so young, so talented. I think he could be a good back. Now, that's in standard. Now, in PPR, where he's going, which is roughly fourth, is probably fair because he's still going to improve.
He takes a hit in PPR. Although they said he's going to catch the ball a bit more this year.
Yeah, and he probably will.
But they said that last year.
Yeah, he probably will, but it will minor, a few catches more. It won't be a huge amount by the end of the year. If it ends up being 10 or 12 or 15, that's not a reason to go PPR heavy or mad on him. But in standard, I would be tempted to have a crack at him sometimes as my number one. I mean, Gurley's the obvious choice.
How do you rate his pass catching ability?
Improving. I mean, that's all you can say. It came out of college, it wasn't great. It wasn't like it was horrendous.
He doesn't seem a natural at it.
He just hasn't had much. The big man doesn't put himself in the best positions. Great receivers, they catch. You catch with your eyes.
So is
I know that sounds a bit
odd. Is it his route running or route running, or is it his hands?
It's a bit of both. He runs not the greatest route tree you can running backs. The problem is you're coming out of the backfield, so you've got to run a real crisp, clear route, and you will get contact. So you need to know how to handle that. I don't think he handles that well. He does it brilliantly as a runner because he's hitting a gap. That's a different thing. And I think he puts his body shape in the wrong places. His hands. You catch they always say the best receivers catch
he can learn, though.
Oh, he can. And that's why I think, in standard, I think he could be the number one. And I would have no... if somebody said, I'm going in, I'm taking Ezekiel Elliott number one pick, many people might roll their eyes. But it's not stupid.
But PPI, David Johnson, people like that, you can make a case for them going above.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He catches a lot of passes.
I totally don't have a problem with it. So Ezekiel Elliott's outlook is very, very good. He's very young, got everything going for him. The team need him, absolutely. Let's be honest, they're going to have to load him up with lots of work. So expect 300 touches, and where there's opportunity, there's fantasy gold. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities.
Another man we tipped for fantasy greatness or a bit of a sleeper was Alan Hearns a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's actually climbed up now. He's 119, still quite low for a wide receiver one potentially.
I mean, look at the chance he's got there in Dallas. I mean, it's a fabulous opportunity. I don't think he's really facing any kind of real serious threat or competition.
Terrence Williams?
No serious threat or competition. I think the truth is this is a great opportunity for Hearns. He's never really, the only rub I would say against him, he hasn't really ever been a clear number one. But in a situation like this, opportunity will breed success. So I can see him getting 60 to 70 catches this season. That's pretty good. And where his ADP is, that's pretty. To
be fair, the only thing that Terrence Williams is threatening is his lamppost with cars. From judging by the off-season.
Yeah, not buying into any Terrence Williams stuff or Bryce Petty, all those guys who all moved on. And
Petty's gone, yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy any of those kind of guys coming in.
I like Petty, but
yeah, he was all right.
He's somewhere else.
So yeah, definitely Ezekiel Elliott. For me, and I wouldn't...
More so in standard than PPR.
Standard, absolutely. In a PPR, you go with the other guys first, and then if he's there, you can't really turn him down. He's a very, very high-quality back because he's
Antonio Brown or Ezekiel Elliott in 4-point PPR?
4-point PPR, you have to go Antonio Brown. I don't think you can turn him down. He's just too consistent. You can't underrate the big man. He's just so good. Is he going to get 100 catches? Yes. Could he get 120? Yes. Could he get 10 touchdowns? He will. Could he get 15? It's possible. I mean... He's just so consistent, and that's with all those catches is awesome. He's just... Is he capable of breaking 2,000 yards? He's one of the very few receivers who could.
Odell Beckham or Elliott?
I would go Elliott at this point. Okay. I think
that's your cut-off point.
That's my cut-off point there.
Hopkins?
It's close because I like Hopkins a lot for this year, and I would probably err on Hopkins because I just think in PPR there's just so much potential for him.
I think he was targeted more than anyone else last year.
Yeah, I really do like him, and I'd find it really hard to not take him if I'm being honest. If that was the choice, I mean they're great choices to have.
Yeah.
I'd love to have them.
Any of them are pretty decent.
I'd love to have them sometimes. It'd be very nice.
Okay, next player we've been asked about, Kirk Cousins. Obviously, he's moved from the Redskins to the Vikings.
I'm hugely high on Kirk Cousins. Have been on this podcast for a few years. I think the opportunity in Minnesota is absolutely through the roof. I am definitely saying this about him, and this is great you brought him up this week. I mean, we touched on it, unfortunately, when we lost the podcast, so it's well worth repeating. If I was being honest and thinking about my top 12 list, and I had to really think carefully about this, there would be very few, if ever, I would ever put a QB on a top 12 list. And it's simply because it's difficult to predict it right. And, there's going to be a lot of pundits this year that are going to say things like, and you hear it every year at the moment, they'll say things to you like, don't take a quarterback early, wait on the quarterback, and all that piece of advice, and that's fine. But the problem is, once you start doing that, and a lot of fantasy enthusiasts, ourselves included, caught up in this, you do, this is what happens. Like last year, a lot of us waited on quarterbacks. The problem is that this has become a mantra. And there's a truth to this. That sometimes that mantra has to be thrown out you have to throw it away. And Kirk Cousins does intrigue me massively for this year, and is on the fringe of making that list, and might do before we hit the season. It depends on how things go. Now, my view is Kirk Cousins capable of this fantasy season of 4,000 yards? I think that's a given his track record. I see no issue with that. How many yards above 4,000 can you get? Well, that team looks pretty awesome. They've got a great defense. They've got potentially one of the best young running backs in the game. We've only seen a sample. It's always a risk, granted. But I trust, even if Cook doesn't go, I will take the piece of advice that I think it was Snyder that said about Latavius Murray.
Yeah,
I'm willing to take that piece of advice on board and say, actually, could this guy come in and do the job? Yes, because the offense is so strong, the defense is so strong, the team they have around them is so strong. You've got arguably two of the best wide receivers paired together with a great quarterback who is a gunslinger, who's not afraid to take risks. I have to admit, excuse me, I'll just take a quick drink. But Kirk Cousins for me is somebody who, when you say gunslinger, sometimes that you get into the mould of thinking.
But will he need to? Because if you look at game scripts, they've got a great defense.
Yeah.
Got a great running game. If they're up in games, they're just going to run it out, which is where the Latavius Murray pick, I can see there being some value, because Cook's coming off a year off an injury. Murray's a big back. He can pound out a game, grind it out, and you don't have to risk Cook.
No, agreed.
So that's where his value could come in.
I agree, and I think they're a great side. But I honestly think this. I think, coming back to Kirk Cousins, I think Cousins can get 4,500 to 4,800 yards. He can really threaten it. I think he can get 40 touchdowns. He's not much of a runner, but he's sneaky good. He often gets 4 or 5 scores. And, when you put it all together, that's borderline top 12 on my list. It's got to be. So don't be surprised. Don't be afraid.
You can get him in the 7th round in the 12-team league.
If you can get him in the 7th, that's the kind of guy I love to target. You don't have to go high for him. Great, take him then. And you know what? You got a real fringe. I mean, he's going to be in the. Should be on
just
the top
below
5.
Robert Woods, your favourite.
Happy days. I'll take Kirk all day long.
No, Robert Woods is your.
Oh, he's marvellous. Woods, of course. He's wonderful. It's very difficult. It's tempting as it is. I think I'll take Kirk. Thank you, Mr. Woods.
Right. Okay. The next one's a rookie. He's landed at the Dolphins. It's Kalen Ballage, running back.
Interesting.
He's going to be competing with Frank Gore and obviously Kenyan Drake.
Here's the problem, right? So.
Well, I've said that already. It's Dolphins.
Oh, it's the Dolphins. Yeah. I mean, here's my issue. Up until Mr. Gore went there, the inconvenient truth that he is, Mr. Gore. I do love the fact. I thought, you know what? I was kind of Kenyan Drake. You could see it being a really interesting opportunity. Kind of, should sneak down into that second round and be really good value for someone to take him as their second running back, and that will look great. And then Gore went there, and I'm like, I can't touch this because. Gore, I cannot get away from the fact. The age is unimportant. The guy just consistently pounds it out. I mean, is he exciting? No. Can you get him at a great ADP price? Yes. Will he do a good job there? Probably, yeah. He destroys Kenyan Drake's value. He destroys his value. And it also means that, as for Ballage, I probably said his name wrong.
Yeah, Ballage, that's right.
He will be fine dynasty-wise. He has an interesting future next year, and maybe a little bit this year.
Will surely be gone next year.
Surely next year, but we said that 2 years ago. Surely this year. I mean, this is what this guy keeps doing.
He does keep performing, doesn't he?
And 800 yards. Yes, tick that box. Does he get 8 scores? Probably tick that box. I mean...
Surely he's got to be back up to the Kenyan Drake.
You would thought so, but if Kenyan Drake went down, I'd be just saying, this is just what Gore does. It's just like a voodoo doll.
He's taking him down.
He's a voodoo doll. He just seems to always produce. I can't. And that means that Gore is really interesting if you're going down the route of what kind of... I've gone wide receiver heavy. I need a running back that can do a serviceable job. Perfect.
And you've got Tannehill, he sort of injured his ACL. Didn't have his ACL properly repaired. And then he's missed another year, so they've got to want to protect him.
So I can't get away from Gore. He has earned my admiration from a couple of years ago so much.
No one ever liked picking Frank Gore, but you do at the end of the year.
You do when it just does the job for you.
I don't know about this year though.
Well, I can't. But can we really?
If he was still with the Colts, I'd be picking.
Look, what's Gore's ADP? Let's be honest. Look at Gore's ADP. I mean, that's a great place to start. Right now, we're July the 19th today. 20th tomorrow. So if his ADP 169 for Gore, it's just there's no risk. I mean, I would take that risk. There are certain players you always look for upside. 169 if Gore's sitting there, I'd happily take him, put him on my team, and see what happens. No problem. just for this 1 year redraft. No issue at all.
Yeah, that sort of price.
No problem. Because even if he doesn't pan out and they end up using him on a waiver pickup, so be it. But
You got Tyrell Williams, D.D. Westbrook.
Do not be surprised that Gore ends up doing a steady job in Miami and somehow Drake does nothing. And that's just the way Gore is. He's just so brilliant at it.
Maybe they both get a bit of a
yeah. I can't trust it. Just can't trust it. It's just what he does, the inconvenient truth, Mr. Gore.
Okay, and the last one we've been asked about, Devonta Freeman from the Falcons.
I've got no concerns over Devonta Freeman coming back for this year at all. I mean, look, we can't forget the fact this is a 200-point plus player.
He had back-to-back years of 200 points.
Atlanta's sure have been a bit in transition. Of course they have. He was banged up last year. He plays hurt. One of the things I like in a running back is somebody who can play when they've been hurt. And he had a lot of injuries, a lot of niggles.
And that's why he's dropped a bit.
And his ADP has dropped. And you cannot refuse this guy. If he's sitting there on your draft board, you'll have already had a top-quality player by the time it rolls around to you to pick. And if he's still sitting there, I think that's very difficult to turn away because, yes, there will be rookies out there that you might fancy taking your, pot shot at.
Ooh,
but this is a guy who's consistent.
He's climbing 19 now.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I can't.
I'm not either.
I'm not in the slightest bit surprised. And you know what? In a large league, particularly in a competitive one like ours, would it surprise you that he goes, as the back-to-back pick at 16 and 17?
If I could get Dalvin Cook
and
at the end of the one round and Devonta Freeman at the start of the next.
I think you'd feel fairly
happy.
Won't,
but if I could, I would be.
You'd feel fairly happy about that.
If I was at the end of that round of 16, I would be very, very pleased.
And I suspect, that's why I'm saying, I think when we come to the season, I think he'll be right at the fringe of that 15-16 range. And I can't blame anybody for taking him.
You can see why, because he's been there, done it.
Exactly.
I mean, you can excuse last year. He's been nothing,
and when he could play, he played, and he played injured. And there's a lot to, there are certain players who, I'm not saying I was really, this is anything special, but I did like to play her as a player because I felt it showed toughness for the team, and you're supposed to be the leader, but that's not meaning it's good. But I do like Devonta Freeman is a bit like that. His mindset is the same. He will go out when he's got banged up, and he will carry on playing. And I've got a lot of admiration for him, and I think this year he's going to bounce back quite nicely. He's on for a reasonably good year, very good year actually. They're going to need him.
Okay. Well, I think we've given you all the latest news. We're likely to be appearing on one of our sort of friends of ours who are NFL fans, Yorkshire. They've got a new YouTube channel. So
Richard, who's brilliant organiser over there, and they're a brilliant group to join on Facebook. We'll try and leave a link in the video. They're a great group to join, even if you just want fantasy stuff. They're trying to build a real base for NFL fans in the UK, and naturally ourselves and Richard are very aligned and have the same motives. He is looking for some support, as Al says, and we're going to try our best to put some videos over there to help them and also help ourselves grow the podcast, because that's what it's all about. We're not going to move away from what we're doing on our list, but we're also going to help them. And there's several ways we can do that. I think we can focus in different ways on their videos.
Yeah, so
we may end up doing individual videos for him and then sending them over, and that might be the way it works for them. So that will help them, and then we'll continue.
The Facebook group already has over 1,000 members, and in Britain that's awesome. for one county. I know there's people out of it. So
well, I think that's
out
awesome.
of the county,
but that shows you how strong they've been at organising. And he got a live league off the ground this year. 16 people in the UK. Now in America, I know that you can do this with your office groups and everything else. It's fairly easy. But over here in the UK, that is a huge thing, particularly when the money is quite considerable. Prize funds up for grabs. So I recommend
high stakes leagues. Yeah.
Recommend those live leagues massively. They're very difficult to get in. If the window ever opens, you've got to jump at the chance. And who knows where this will go. I'm still expecting at some point we'll get a live league off the ground, attached really to the NFL fan pub over here in Ireland and Scotland. I'm sure that will happen in the end. I'm convinced it will.
Yeah. Well, we do have people from Ireland and Scotland coming. Yeah. To participate. Yeah, so I mean, there's lots of stuff going on in the NFL fans of Yorkshire. If you want to watch live games with like-minded fans, they go to a casino with a massive screen in Leeds. That's so keep an eye out, and it's a
wonderful venue, and they really look
they do so many things. There's so many things going on. If you love the NFL, it's a no-brainer to join it. Okay, well, my thanks to Sean for joining me again.
Thank you, really
if you stayed till the end, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Keep commenting, subscribing, and please, whatever you can do, share the videos.
Yeah, we love your comments. If you want to destroy Sean for supporting Frank Gore, I'm all for that. I'm off to type my comment now to get it in early.
Well, I don't think it's as bad as some of your late round flyers, so I'll live with it.
Okay, thanks for watching.
Inconvenient truth.